Bodybuilding with a purpose. We are building our bodies, minds, and spirit to achieve a level of holistic growth. It's not about aesthetics and looking good. That's just a byproduct of the intrinsic attention we give ourselves, overcoming all challenges in pursuit of our greatest desire. Bodybuilding with a purpose.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. It's your DFB anchor today, and today I am with the one and only Mr. Olympia, two-time Mr. Olympia for men's physique, PNBA, INBA. His name is Derek Joe. All right, but before I go ahead and bring him on, I'm going to go ahead and read, a little bit of his bio so everyone have an idea of, all the other specialties he has. Yeah. Right? So Derek Joe is a dedicated fitness professional with a passion for transforming lives through physical health and wellness. As an ISSA Elite Personal Trainer, his expertise encompasses a wide range of specialties, including bodybuilding, dynamic stretch techniques, and online programming. With a background as a former college athlete and coach, he brings a dynamic and motivational approach to his training sections. With 23 years of personal experience in weight training and being a pro bodybuilder and two-time PNBA Classic Physique Natural Olympian Champion, he has a deep understanding of muscle building, weight loss, and nutrition coaching. So whatever you're looking for, definitely he's going to leave out this information for us at the end of this interview, and you can get in contact with him. Ladies and gentlemen, none but the only one and only champion, Mr. Olympia, men's classic physique, going for number 3 again this year, Derek Joe. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
Today,
hey, what's up, Eli?
Good,
hey, man, thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it. It's always good chopping it up with you. So we'll see what kind of questions you got and, how much information we can give,
I love that. How much information we can give, I mean, before I start with any other team, I just had to ask this question. Like, for the first time you won your title, Mr. Olympia, what was the feeling for you? How does it feel like?
I mean, it's always surreal. You don't always believe it when it initially happens. Mm-hmm. My goal going into that first Natural Olympia was just to place the top 5, I didn't have necessarily an expectation to win it for myself, but, with Philip as my coach, he kind of instilled that belief in me. He convinced me to compete in Mr. America, which got me on a bigger stage, at least to have a bigger stage before the Natural Olympia, so I could kind of see where I stacked up against other athletes. And I got second there. So that really made me feel like I had a chance, to come out with the Natural Olympia. And I just had stuff going on in my life too. Obviously, work life's busy. I think there's always something with all of us, right? Work life, family life, different things we're juggling whenever we're competing. My grandmother had passed away like 2 weeks before the Natural Olympia. We had her funeral the week before. Wow. So that was something that was definitely heavy on me emotionally going into that one. It was definitely, a special moment just getting to that point and, making things happen. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. I just wanted to ask that because, getting crowned the number 1 in the world, I think I interviewed Joseph Ortiz not too long ago. He won the Mr. Olympia for men's physique in 2019. And I asked him the same question. And for him, he was like, yeah, that day I went back home changing baby diapers. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. You're right back to life. You know what I mean?
Yes. I was like, wait a minute. I thought, number 1 in the world, there was this different perception. But thank you very much for sharing that. So now the real question, of everything we're doing right here, the purpose for this interview, we'll call it bodybuilding with a purpose, right? And before bodybuilding, or actually, like, who was Derek Joe before, the championship, the bodybuilding, the stage? Because you said you were once an athlete. So how was that like for you?
Oh, that was the best. I mean, I've always been an athlete, you know, always active as a kid, always playing sports. Been running track since like grade school. That was really my first sport. I didn't start playing basketball till I got into like fifth grade, middle school, really, but at least organized anyway. So, but yeah, three sport athlete in high school, played football in college for 2 years, then I coached for 2 years. So that was obviously what I was passionate about, being an athlete, having a chance to work with athletes. I played multiple sports, so I was pretty diverse in that degree. Like I've worked with pro baseball players before. I've worked with college football players, you know, soccer players. So I just have a very, you know, wide range of athletes that I've had the honor of working with. So that's just always been something I love. But then after football, you know, college is over and I'm not coaching anymore. There wasn't really anything for me to prepare for at that point. So, you know, going to the gym just felt a little more mundane than purposeful, like you said.
Yeah.
So, you know, my best friend that was competing, he had been competing since he was a teenager. Bodybuilding was never even on my mind. So it was not on my radar. And he convinced me to do a show just to try it. Did my first show in 2013 at the age of 26 years old. I got second to last place at that show.
Wow.
Classic Physique wasn't a category yet.
Yes.
You know, like I didn't really know anything about bodybuilding. I wasn't counting macros. I just ate food. I ate a little healthier, cleaner. I think I dropped 10 pounds, you know, went from 190 to 180 on stage, right? Like I still look like a football player. I just stepped on stage.
Yes.
And, you know, I see how shredded and conditioned the other athletes were. And that, you know, I just realized if I actually had a coach and somebody, you know, tracking everything and I could learn how to do this the right way, I wonder, you know, how well I could do in this sport. But of course, financially, things like that, I wasn't in the spot for it. So then 5 years go by and ultimately I wasn't really in the position to at that time either, but it was something I knew I wanted to get back into.
Yes.
You know, I'd been in kind of corporate America for a while, like in my 20s all the way through my you know, being 30, just being in banking and different careers, like not really working in fitness. So bodybuilding was a chance for me to get reconnected with my passion, get that competitive edge back a little bit, and, you know, just push myself physically as an athlete. Because I felt like if I had that type of coaching from somebody, you know, I was a good enough athlete to be close to the top at least, right? Be considered among one of the greater athletes, whatever my era is, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, that's Derek the athlete background, you know.
Yes, yes. Wow. That is pretty interesting, you know, having that, you know, athlete lifestyle from a very young age. And even when, you know, like you say, you went to corporate America, you still find a way back to, you know, doing what you love and what you are really, really passionate about, right? So, you know, when you came back to doing bodybuilding, right? How was that journey for you all the way to, you know, to winning the biggest title in the world, the Mr. Olympia? How was that journey for you? What was the expectation, even from the very first time you step on stage? How was that for you?
It was tough, to be honest, because so I did that first show in 2013. I didn't do my next show until 2018.
Wow.
And beginning of the year 2018, like January, I committed myself to a show. I hired a coach. And 3 months later, I got laid off from my job. So I had no income coming in. I just had like my savings and everything. My show was in July, so I had a 4-month prep coming. I just got laid off from my job. And I had a decision to make whether I was going to not compete, you know, so I could do whatever, finances, we'll call it that, or to go through with it. And I forced myself to go through the prep of the show. And I still had a coach. I was still paying the coach, doing my best to pay my bills and do other stuff. Pretty much went through most of the savings I had because I wasn't working really at the time. It was a very stressful time. You know, I think one of my friends paid for my tanning for the show. My dad paid for my registration for the show because I didn't have the money to pay for it.
Wow.
There were some weeks I didn't have enough money to buy all the food I needed, so I didn't get all the meals that I needed to eat that my coach was having me go through. So there was a lot of like pressure and stress on me to pay bills, but I didn't want to stop something that I told myself I wanted to commit to. It was just important for me, you know, at that point in my life to finish what I started. You know, I told myself I wanted to do something, and I wasn't just doing a show to do a show. I was doing it so that I could get reconnected with my passion. So that's why it meant more to me. I knew if I was willing to give up on it and hold off or push it off, like, oh, maybe I'll do a show later after I get a job, I knew that was going to have more of a negative effect, you know, than me just pushing through it and seeing if I could make things happen. Yeah. So ultimately, that's what got me through. Without getting too much into the rest of it, shorten that story, you know, I do that show and I'm still like laid off, got all this stuff going on, and ended up coming out of that and started competing in the PNBA in 2020, you know, during COVID and all that.
Yes.
The show I wanted to do got canceled, so I pushed it back until later in the year. So then obviously I'm just an amateur still. So did an amateur show, got second there. And then I was a little discouraged at that show because I didn't get my pro card because I felt pretty good, you know what I mean? And I kind of didn't want to waste time. So I felt like me not getting my pro card then was slowing down my progress. And some of the other athletes and pros that were there encouraged me to do the amateur Olympia, which I wasn't going to do. If I wasn't a pro, I didn't want to do the Olympia, was kind of how I was thinking about it.
Wow.
But they encouraged me to do it. I ended up deciding to just suck it up, do it. I came in a little tighter, which was good. Still got second place at the amateur Olympia, but I was awarded my pro card there.
Yes.
So for me, that was enough to say, okay, like I know I didn't get second, but I feel like I'm at least good enough to compete as a pro now.
Yes.
And that's really all I need is give me that chance, give me that pro status so I can start competing. I'd connected with Philip Ricardo and asked him to be my coach like the day of that show after I was off of stage, and we got connected and then, you know, put me through an off season, things like that, and totally transformed my physique from my amateur year to that first pro year. And then the rest is history from there for that, you know, that first title.
Yes. Wow. This is really inspirational right here. You know, to just start off with how, you know, your first show went, right? And it just reminds me of how when everyone sees everyone that is successful, we just focus on like the highlight of like, oh wow, look at this 2-time, you know, Mr. Olympia, right? Man, I want to be like him, or I want to, you know, whatever, right? But not knowing, oh, this is what you have to go through in order for you to get to where, you know, you are right now. Like you said, I mean, one of our conversations, you said you never really won a first place as an amateur, right? It was, hey, here's second place, but you got to.
Even as a pro, like I had never won a single show until I won the Natural Olympia.
Wow.
I mean, you know, I've done 10 total shows and I've only won 3 of them. 2 of them are the Natural Olympias. You know what I mean? So,
yes,
like when you think about winning, you know, most people think they have to be winning every show to be good enough to win, you know, the top show of the year, whatever that's going to be. But it's not always the case. You know, you kind of manage those expectations. That, you know, that's something you and I have had conversations about.
Yes.
You know, how the outcomes of a show are going to be and just how subjective the sport is as well. And, you know, always trying to make adjustments, and then you're competing against different athletes each time. So the look is always different. So, you know, you're just combating that and doing the best you can.
No, yes. No, I mean, you know, that right there is part of the attributes that make someone a great, you know, champion, you know, the champion mindset, right? Of, like you said, attributing winning is not just first place, but just improving like as you keep growing, right? And my question is, all this time, all this setback, right? You had every reason to be like, okay, let me move the show to the next one, or I'm not gonna do this. Discouragement, whatever it is, right? What is that inner driving force that just, gives you the push to just keep going regardless of the obstacles?
Um, so through some of that, like I almost lost my house. Like I told you, I wasn't working.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I'd almost foreclosed on my house like multiple times just because I was in and out of trying to find enough money to pay for the mortgage, things like that. There were some weeks where I didn't have enough money for food, some weeks that I had my electricity shut off, some weeks where my cell phone was shut off
Wow.
just because I didn't have the money for the bills. And, I'm kind of a proud person. I'm not necessarily going to ask people for help or money. I'm going to try and get as much as I can on my own. And then, obviously I'm not going to like let myself fail. So I'll let people that are close to me know when I need help. So I got help, from friends and family through that as needed. And, I ended up doing like a 21-day liquid fast where I didn't eat any solid food for 3 weeks. So there's different things I was doing. And I essentially got to the point where, I told myself if I was willing to go through all these types of things just in life in general, right? This is without bodybuilding or fitness being a part of the picture. Like I've
Yes.
been laid off from jobs twice, 2-3 times within a 12-month period, struggling with companies doing what they want to do. And it's like, if I'm willing to go through all this stress and struggle while I'm working for somebody else, trying to let them determine what my life is going to be like, why don't I make the decision on what I want to do? And I'll be willing to struggle through that because it's 100% for me. And I tell a lot of people that now. I'm like, hey, like, I don't complain too much when I'm in prep because I chose to be in prep. I'm still smiling at work, even though I have like 8 clients a day here and there. I try to keep my energy up as much as I can. It's going to go down, but I still have that choice whether I'm going to smile or be an asshole to somebody. That's still a decision I can make regardless of how I'm feeling. So those are things that I know I'm choosing to do for myself for that greater purpose versus somebody else telling me I have to do it where I can still lose or get laid off because they decide to. Like, this is something that I control 100%, aside from what the judges say, on show day. But even that victory comes from me knowing that I bettered the version of myself I was last time on stage.
Yes.
And I know there's always a scenario where I'm going to win first place on stage because I put in all the work that's required. So there's confidence in knowing you're doing all the right things to where, regardless of what somebody says about your physique on stage, you did everything. So you can still maintain that confidence and that positive outlook on yourself and the work you put in as that end result.
Yes, yes. Wow, man. This is, number one, thank you very much for sharing that part of your life, through everything you had to go through. And this is just mind blowing. And for me, it's like, okay, yes, this right here is a whole complete package of what a true champion is right here. The humbleness, the character, the determination, and most importantly, owning the authority over your life. That part just stood out to me where, you're like, I don't want someone to make my decision for me, right? My future. And you took a grab of that, of your life, and the results speaks for themselves right now. Wow. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure to subscribe and like our podcast. All right.